3 to 5 years of experience in one certain area, whether it was
okay, log in right here.
you know,
sign
litigation,
in.
or tort,
and then you
or,
just
you know,
you create a
family
profile.
law, and they wanted, you know.
Okay.
They don't want to train. They don't want to.
So it was a pain.
Well, I think job hunting in general can be at times pretty hard. Everything's gone very digital or electronic. So it's hard to get any face-to-face feel for what kind of people they might be when you go
Doesn't
there.
look like I'm updating here.
What they're looking for.
Like
they
I
don't
can't get to
really
my
get a
new,
good look at you either.
the
I
stuff
don't
I did
think.
today.
Which is another really nice thing about this is that everything's kind of face
looks
to
like I'm
face
just
anyway.
being
You know, you
impatient.
go there, you meet with them, you talk
So
with them,
can any email
usually in their
address, or
house,
has to
and
be-
talk about
No, you can send that to
finances and
any.
things and,
It's just gonna
you
say,
know,
hey,
life
look, I'll
insurance
show you.
planning
I get
things
I
out.
get the text messages.
So it's all confidential, and
myself.
so
Put in
you
my
want to
password.
be able to do it in their
That's
house
my
where
email
where they
address,
feel
and it
comfortable
says,
discussing it
one
anyway.
or the other is
And
wrong.
besides
So
that,
does it
you know,
have
like
to
I
be
had
certain-
I had a couple come down here. They moved to the city
gotta
in
create
October
first.
from Wisconsin.
I didn't mean to touch.
Okay.
Create an account,
And
create a profile.
they needed some information because they had some policies with the Knights, so they could apply for a mortgage. You know, never met them before. They never met me before. So, you know, it was one of those things that, you know, I had to go in there and make sure that they were who they were.
So this is, it'll just send, I didn't sign myself
You give
up for
them the
this one
assurance
either,
you were
'cause
who.
we haven't
Yeah,
ever met,
and then,
but,
you know, trade off the
but
information
it'll just
they
send,
needed. And,
hey,
you know, really
we've
nice
done something
people,
with your
young
board,
couple.
whatever that something is,
Yeah.
it'll,
Okay.
it'll be
It's
on
a
there.
nice
All right,
resource.
I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that through the Catholic Church?
And that'll be in a
That's what
text
not-
message?
Yeah,
It's funny, 'cause
it'll
I
be a
just
very brief,
came
like
across that just
today
recently.
was,
I don't know what I was working
Charter
on,
Review
but,
Board
that
agenda was
affiliation.
revised to include minutes,
Mhm.
consideration of
I
It's
minutes.
a fraternal benefits organization.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
Okay.
hadn't
That's what
really
your
made
text
that
message would say, and then
connection
that'll
before.
alert you to go and look and say, oh, what was revised, what do I need to read, if anything,
And the
that
thing
kind of
is, I
thing.
mean, I can go in there and do that. They don't.
Now, did we
you know,
have-
And we
there's
do
no
it when it's
charge for
posted.
doing that
Minutes
for members.
as
It's
Yes,
because
that's
the way it
why I
was
had to
formed.
revise the agenda.
That's the
That's all right.
purpose of the organization.
Yeah, charity.
Not going
fraternity,
anywhere until
stuff,
y'all
and
approve it.
In fact, it
Okay.
was
It's
formed
all
by a
good.
priest in order to look out for widows and orphans.
Isn't that just a really good thing to do?
So it's kind of continuing that, which is really good.
Yeah, and I guess that's been done in a lot of different avenues as well, now that I think of it.
They got they're the only Catholic insurance company that has over 100 billion in assets.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
They plan
Not big, I bet.
very well.
And they don't put
Wise.
people in crap. I've been bailing out a widow. Her husband passed away in February. I'm trying to help her bring the money back into the Knights account, which guarantees 3.5% when they bought the policy in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got talked at one of these. The general agent calls them plate liquor lunches, where they invite people in and they give them a free lunch and they go, give them a spiel.
Let me tell you
about-
how to plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they got talked into taking 6 figures out and putting it somewhere else. And they're being charged. These are 80-year-old. 10 years surrender charge if they ever needed access to that money for a medical emergency or something. They have 10 years of surrender charges, 8% or less.
And you can do a
Like
voice
that
vote
10
on
years. 80-year-old.
those.
Okay.
Okay, and they're charging them $600 and something a quarter for
So
fees.
none of our screens turned on. Nothing.
They've been doing that for the
Is that
last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
she doesn't really know how much the policy is gaining because all the
That's a good
fees
one,
keep
Monday
taking
meetings.
out. So we went in there and we're like,
Phew.
look, her husband passed away, this is annuity. We're like, look, here's the guarantee, 3.5%. That's it. This is the way it is. It's like one page of the annuity, And she's like, well, that's just so simple. And there's no extra fees, no nothing. She's like, I want to put it back. So we're okay. So I got to help her fill out the paperwork tomorrow, and then take and get that, and then put it back where she wants it, where she understands it. So, but things like that is what we do.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah, some of the things that they get talked out of. I mean,
It's all right, isn't it?
they don't realize some of the time what they
Alright.
really have, and they think, oh, well, there's something always
Well,
better.
Clark.
Well,
Wilcox.
So
Well,
now
then
my-
they're relying
my-
on others.
exactly.
Clark.
And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of
We'd all
disconnect
faint
in
if
what
he
the
walked.
Knights do for their members. So most of my job is getting
Apparently,
information.
the
out there.
charter review board parking spots were,
If they know it's available, maybe they'll start using it.
We'll work on that for next time.
Right.
So.
Hey Newton.
Very good. Nice program.
Festival
Good to
seating?
hear.
Really
Yes,
is.
festival seating.
Yeah. They've been 5 years, for the last 5 years, most ethical company in North America.
Can I sit down there?
No.
Sit wherever you want.
Or would you like me there, Chair?
Yep.
Let's see.
You
I
want
think
me
you're
over
good.
there or over here?
Well, Wayne might be here, right?
haven't heard from
Wherever
him.
you want me.
Okay.
The door was locked when I tried to get in. Fortunately,
Oh.
somebody came and opened it,
No, that's
let me in.
Why did I lock that though?
Yeah,
You didn't get the message
We
when
we
that
did
happened?
lock it.
Yeah,
We
Newton-
saw
Newton
Newton
told me, that's why I
parking
said
and
don't
we
do it.
decided to lock it right. Great.
Didn't get that message.
So, having said that, we're
Yeah.
missing somebody? Is
We
that
are,
right?
Yeah,
Wayne
Wayne.
Wilcox.
He's probably upstairs. Where, is that where you were again?
Yeah.
No, I was
Wayne
trying to get in
Wilcox's,
front door.
Last
So,
member to
what do we
arrive.
need to do for that?
I did not know how to start.
I mean, it's on my schedule,
Right.
so when it's not, you have to manually override, I'm sure.
Okay. So that's something I need to remember to tell them. Okay.
I tried to print that spreadsheet out of the pay scales.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't look very nice.
I didn't have, I printed it, then I grabbed it off my printer. I said, I ain't got time to mess with this.
No.
I know there's gotta be a way to make it print legibly, but I know a couple of the planning commissioners are missing their paper documents already, and we haven't even had a meeting.
They'll get used to it.
I'm fine with it. I am.
It's 4 o'clock.
It's 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
They did that 6 months ago too, had the wrong time up there.
If they'd have left, it'd have been fun now.
Yeah.
Nothing? All right.
All right.
I'm sure that somebody will get up there and change it.
All right. Ready to call this meeting to order? Robin, will you do the roll call?
I will. Newton White,
Yes, here.
Willie Scales,
Here.
Wayne Wilcox, Stan Hetrick,
Here.
and Debbie Connors.
Here. All right. Did everybody look at the minutes of the last meeting? That was sent in
Yes. I
a
did.
new email to us. And Robin just was explaining to me how to make sure I get the notifications and emails on new things that are sent out, because I didn't, because I'm not on the planning commission. 'Cause we haven't met very often. So, does everybody know how to do that? Do you know how to do it? Okay.
I know it's available, but I'm working on it.
All right. All right, so when you go to the city's website, the upper right hand, it has a sign in, and you can create your profile.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Okay, and then
Just set it
Things
up
will
to
be-
get notifications for the Charter Review Board.
get notifications.
And anytime we post the agendas, post the minutes, revise anything, an email will be sent out to you, or a text, whatever you sign up for.
So Robin sent out the minutes today. Did everybody get a chance to see them?
No.
So, can I ask a question? I think I know the answer, but are we hooked up with Willie to knowing that we probably can't send things out from staff an hour or two prior to a meeting? Should we give them enough time to review stuff? All right. You haven't, Willie, you having any difficulty?
Yes, I talked it over with Robin with
Okay, good.
some of the stuff, but we think we're gonna be able to get it worked out.
Okay.
So-
Let us know if you know, if it comes to you coming in a little bit early and us reading the minutes to you to make sure we'll do whatever it takes from a staff perspective to make sure you have the tools you need if we can't get the electronics to communicate with each other.
Okay.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
Just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
I'll personally do it if I have to, so.
Move to table approval of the minutes to the next meeting when everybody has a chance to read them.
I think that's definitely a prudent course, because Willie hasn't gotten it, and I wasn't here, so I really don't know anything about what was taken and done at the last meeting.
Okay.
So, can I interject here?
Sure.
If there's some folks that weren't in the last meeting, unless you're gonna listen to the audio, and make sure the minutes match, you're not gonna know next meeting what was said at the last meeting. So you're not gonna be any better off to approve the minutes. Are the minutes actually what you just sent?
I sent the minutes, yes.
They are 1 page long.
Right.
Don't table something to look it over. My recommendation that you can read, I just read it.
Yeah. Can everybody take a minute?
We can
to
take a
read
minute
this?
right now.
Yeah.
I'll go see if somebody's at the door.
Alright.
Has Willie been given a chance to go over the new ones?
So I'll read it in the record right now. You good with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Charter Review Board meeting minutes, City of Port Orange, Council Chambers, February 13th at 6 p.m. A regular meeting of the Charter Review Board was called to order by Robin Fenwick, City Clerk, at 6:03 p.m. Present were Debbie Connors, the Chairwoman, Newton White, the Vice Chairman, Willie Scales, Wayne Wilcox. Absent was Stan Hetrick. Also present, Margaret Roberts, the City Attorney, who's off to your far right, Willie, and Robin Fenwick, who's tapping away right below you there. Okay? Election of the Chair and Vice Chair. There was a motion to nominate Debbie Connors as the Chairwoman, was made by Member Wilcox and seconded by Member White. Motion carried unanimously by voice vote. Motion to nominate Newton White as Vice Chair was made by Member Wilcox and seconded by Chairwoman Connors. Motion carried unanimously by voice vote. Discussion action, duties and responsibilities. Chairwoman Connors discussed the duties and responsibilities of the Charter Review Board. The board needs to determine if there are any topics to be reviewed by the board. Member Wilcox would like to discuss the civil service process. Ms. Fenwick briefly explained the current process and all agreed to include the topic for further discussion by the board. Vice Chairman White suggested a discussion regarding the following topics. Term of the city manager. Chairwoman Connors doesn't agree with changing the charter regarding the term of the city manager. She believes the current format of an at-will position provides enough discretion to the council should they decide to fire a city manager. Vice Chairman White believes it will assist in guiding council to make a motion relating to the retention of the city manager. A discussion was held at the board's consensus 3-1 with Chairwoman Connors dissenting what was to include the topic for further discussions. Margaret Roberts, City Attorney, will provide legal considerations regarding this topic. Next, council approval of the hiring of department heads. The board did not agree to discuss this topic further. They're happy with the current process and believes it's in the best interest of the city. Next was district voting versus citywide voting. The board agreed to discuss this topic further. The board would like to meet monthly on Mondays at 5 p.m. beginning March 12th, 2018 in the following items for the agenda. civil service process, and the term of the city manager's contract. Item 3, charter discussion. Discussion was held during item 2 above. There were no public comments, and you adjourned at 6:47 p.m. You good, Willie?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Move to approve the minutes as read.
Second.
Okay,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next sign? Okay, minutes are approved.
Hey.
All right, so the last meeting, we'd agreed to discuss 2 items at this meeting. And the first item we're gonna discuss is the contract term for the city manager. Robin provided the contract of the city manager to us all. And it states in the contract, section 11, termination. The majority of the governing body votes to terminate the employee at a duly authorized public meeting. And under section 15, performance evaluation, upon request, the employer may review the performance of the employee. Employers shall review performance on or about February 15, 2017, and at least annually thereafter. The performance evaluation process, form, criteria, and format shall be mutually agreed upon by the employer and employee. So the discussion that was brought up at the last meeting was whether that was sufficient to make sure that the city council discusses retention of the city manager.
Before we get started, I'd like to go back to your foundation, which is your charter language, and then we can move forward from there. In section 4.02 of the charter, subparagraph A, appointment, the council shall appoint a city manager for an indefinite term by a 2/3 vote of all of the council members. So there's your foundation for if you decide to make a change. That's the section that will have to be modified.
Okay.
I believe that the language in the charter speaks clearly that it says that they have to appoint them for an indefinite term. It doesn't give the council any leeway to appoint them for a year term or any type, what I suggested would be a biannual in off election years, that the contract must come up for renewal. So I think at the very least we owe it to our council to give them the latitude to set a term limit. In discussion with our current city manager, he pointed the adverse for the city manager's position, that it also gives the city manager an opportunity to not seek renewal of his contract and therefore move on to another pasture without quitting a job. And likewise, the council doesn't have to fire an employee to simply not renew the contract. Much more pleasant resume terms for both, if you ask me. And
So from a I'm sorry for interrupting. From a leadership perspective, it's a lack of leadership. You ought to be able to say, we're going in a different direction and no longer need your services. Thank you very much. Goodbye. But in some cases, throughout the nation, and you know, if you go to the dreaded ICMA website, you'll see that 50% of the people are on two-year contracts, 3-year contracts, 5-year contracts, and some people are at will, as I am now. So strong councils have no problem going. It happens all the time. People wake up and next thing you know, they're having a special meeting, 3-2, city manager's gone.
Right.
You're like, well, what happened? And other times they just fail to renew for those 5-year contracts. There's pros and cons for both. Bottom line, and I was talking to Newton about this, bottom line, we're at will employees. I can go any day, and whether I have a 5-year contract or not, they can let me go. There are certain city financial reasons, and we can discuss this further later, but there's certain financial reasons why a contract is beneficial to the city. If you have a contract and the contract is up, you don't owe that person anything as he walks out the door. If it was a good job and you want to do it, do it. Right now, I have a severance package where if I should get fired for any reason other than for cause, it's as time goes on, it starts to weigh into that decision.
Right.
So those are some things you need to think of. From my perspective, I'm not your typical city manager as far as where I am in my life. So you know, there's benefits to me, there's benefits to the city for both. I think it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
So this charter says indefinite, but the contract says every year.
No, the contract says day-to-day at will.
I
At
get
will,
evaluated
at will,
yearly, but
evaluated.
that's an opportunity. That's like what Newton said. That's a soft opportunity for them to go. They can evaluate the city manager poorly, and go, well, all ones. What are we saying to each other here? So it's an opportunity for them to do. Not a gentlemanly way thing, but to kind of say, well, it's pretty obvious to all of us who haven't talked because we can't, that we're not happy with the direction the city manager's going. Let's make a decision. Whereas in a different situation, they might go, his contract's up or her contract's up in 2 months. Instead of mudslinging, let's just hold on for 2 months and not renew his contract. And the city manager has the same option to go, yeah, I'm good. It was a great ride, I'm out of here. And you didn't get fired, you didn't leave, you just didn't renew your contract. So, Deb.
All
Sure.
right, so, yes.
I was
Stan.
wanting to find out if we're considering being able to change, it would have to be the core language of the charter.
Correct.
Where the indefinite,
Mhm.
if we put in there like indefinite or term of no less than say 3, 4, 5 years by like a 2/3 or a 3/4 vote, that would give council enough opportunity whenever there's a new city manager. They can either choose the way it is now, or they can choose to define a term of no less than so many years in the contract. It kind of broadens it a little bit, which is kind of what we're thinking, I believe. And it gives the council, whoever they are, the opportunity to either choose to do it the way it is now, or have the contract term of no less than say 3 years or 5 years or whatever works best for the city and the managers. You said something about the ICMA language as far as like what the average length of a contract is. Maybe something like that would be a good one to put in there, of no less than. It kind of broadens it out, gives everybody the opportunity, and it doesn't constrain anybody to any specific situation.
Yeah, it didn't print out real well, but the spreadsheet that came in our information, and you scroll down the columns where it had the length of contract and the term of, you know, whether it was indefinite or whatever, and you look at it, and it was kind of hard without us hoping to print it so I could mark them, but it's all over the place. There's people, there's managers with 1-year contracts, there's managers with 2, 3, 4, 5-year contracts, 2-year contracts. I mean, it's all over the place. There's no, I'd have to say that just judging from looking at it and scrolling down the column, more than half of the city managers, probably the majority of them, have some type of a term limit on their contract that it has to be renewed. Some of them are automatic renewal, which I would assume, can always get in trouble with that word, that automatic renewal means the contract would be renewed unless there's intervention. But I think it would be good tool for council to have to determine for themselves when they hire a city manager whether or not it's going to be an indefinite term like what we have now, or whether they can have it come to a contract for a renewal. So right now their hands are tied. They can only write one contract, and that's for an indefinite term.
But the city manager is an at-will employee, so it's not, their hands aren't tied in
That's
that
pretty
they can
indefinite.
agree to,
No.
they could agree at any time.
I was telling Willie, I wake up every day and look at the news journal and make sure I should take a shower and come to work.
That's what I said, it is indefinite.
The other thing, as the managers I know that have contracts, they're in the same boat. They go, yeah, I have a contract. The only thing I know is that every 2 years I can negotiate a pay raise. I guess I could negotiate a pay raise, but right now, the city has me at my contracted rate, and there's no provision in there for a raise. Whereas if it was every 2 years, I'd be like, contract's up. Oh yeah, Jake, let's just sign another one. Oh, hold on a minute.
Mhm.
And you would have an opportunity, or you or the occupant of your chair
Sure.
would have the opportunity to do that.
So exactly, and that's what I told you. It's there. When you break apart the way I currently live, or the contract, each of them have their advantages and disadvantages. If you change it, it will be equally beneficial until it's not. Until a situation arises and you're like, ooh, this didn't work for us, and then you have a charter review board and you go back to indefinite. Indefinite doesn't mean forever, and I don't wake up every day, but you can watch some of these situations where in the heat of the moment, council will get upset with their city manager and just call a vote right there. And next thing you know, the guy's like, what just happened? Happened in Riviera Beach twice. So a contract, a five-year contract wouldn't help that at all, or a 2-year contract. It wouldn't help. They would have just said, thanks, but no thanks, you're out. And most city managers are in Florida have the full 20, I think it's a 20-week severance. So that's you write a check for a lot of money in the heat of the battle. So, but there's no, you're not protecting the employee, and you're not protecting the council. What you are doing is, like you said, you're allowing council to walk away from a person by not signing a name. And just they don't even have to address it. They can sit right at the dais and la da 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 da. We're just not gonna. And the contract, it's just like our contracts. They expire, and the pavers stop paving, and the air conditioner guys stop coming, and
So it gives them an easy out.
it gives them an easy out.
Oh,
And like I said, I consider it a lack of leadership, but if you don't have leaders, and I'm not saying we don't, but if you don't have leaders on council that are willing to make that call, because, and it's hard, leading's hard, firing people is hard.
Yeah, and it's in a public, and worse than I've been in a job
Well,
where
true, it's in the public
it's
too.
in the public eye, so it's not like you come to the office down the hall here and we need to have a talk today, and
Yeah.
and then you box your stuff up and you walked out the door. It's not like that. It's not quiet. This is going to be in the newspaper. It's going to come up when Google search that person's name, employment history, that they were let go.
Mhm.
So I can tell you, as an employer, I wouldn't want to give that. I want it to be as gentle as I can be, because I wouldn't want to do that. And I know for a fact that previous members of council have that's been their holdback for saying anything in public against a manager, was you know, this is public. This is going to be the same stuff. If you've been through the city manager selection process, and I served on that committee, and you look at these applications, and then you get down to the 5 or 10, whatever we had, and you start looking at the background on them, and then then by the time it's the finalist, you know, you've read 20 years worth of newspaper articles on some of these people, and it's like, you know, it looks pretty bad. And it give you think about that. You think about what you're doing to that person in their future when you're letting them go.
Well, if I were a member of the city council, or if I were the mayor, I would hope that I would base it on the performance. Are they effective? Are they not effective? If they're falling down on performance, what are they falling down on? And that would be the issue, not whether I hurt his feelings or not, or her feelings, whoever the city manager is. So, you know, it really needs to be based on performance and not whether it's going to be in the paper or not. I mean, that's my feeling on it. And I think they have the opportunity to do that every year.
I got a question. I want to make sure I understand it. So he's indefinite right now. So if he's on a contract, do he get a severance pay on the contract?
Well, I think that's terms you haven't spoken to.
That would.
Yeah, and that would, would that be something that would be in the charter, Margaret?
No, it's not
No.
in the charter.
No.
Now, that's the contract provision that we currently have. State law limits the amount of severance to 20 weeks. And that's the extent of the state law on that kind of contract term. I think the scenario you have to consider is, what if you have a manager that isn't performing and council needs to make the tough choice, not wait for that renewal date? Then what will be the repercussions of that, and what do you envision? Do you envision that that would be a trigger for the severance? And severance is 20 weeks. Let's say the renewal date's further than 20 weeks out. Then is that going to be the limitation of the severance paid? Or that's got to be clear so that you don't get into now disputes on what does the city owe in the event of that kind of situation. So it's not as simple to administer or to understand as the current language, but you've heard some of the trade-offs of that balancing act.
The severance, the compensation, the vacation pay, or paid, what do they call it, paid time off now, because it encompasses paid leave time, it encompasses sick pay, and that's all in the that would all be in the individual contract, correct?
That's correct.
So the only thing that would change is basically striking the word indefinite, whether we add to it or not. You could effectively make the change by just striking the one word, and that they, or then the council would be allowed to determine their own whether they're going to go with an indefinite contract or a term contract, or.
So if you struck the word indefinite, what would it say then, Margaret? Could you?
The council shall appoint a city manager for a term by a 2/3 vote of all of the council members.
So there you have it.
So if you just struck the one word, it would give the city council the latitude to do something different or not, or do the same.
Let me throw you another scenario, because that's what attorneys do. You know, we're defending this one or that one.
I didn't have to say that.
But wait.
I'm getting faster here. What if you have a friend of, you know, the council that gets in, and it's for a definite term, but how does that now impact your view or your vision of, you know, that ease of the renewal?
Is that in your contract?
Let's keep talking about my job.
Whatever it takes.
Does your contract cover that?
Past practice.
Duties assigned.
Remind me to tell you how that clock got changed once before. Remind me.
What's up?
I mean, in my opinion, the council has a lot of freedom to come up with the contract that they want to come up with for the individual.
If we struck the word indefinite from that charter language, they would have more freedom to administer a contract. I remember one of the things in the discussion, telling things on Mr. Johansson down here, that he had come from managing a military base rather than managing a city, and that was one of the things that some of the reluctance was over, was that they're going to give him an indefinite contract, and that if he doesn't work out in 6 months, they're going to have to fire him, or a year. And yeah, it very well could have been that we could have hired somebody and hired them with a shorter term, a 1 year or 2 year term, and then renewed their contract after we saw what they were going to do. Council would have that ability. It would bring.
But right now, the contract does not. I can't hold the city to an indefinite clause.
No.
Because I'm at will.
Right.
I'm a daily employee. I just wake up knowing that I'm probably not going to get fired today. But so they can fire me any day. It's indefinite, has nothing to do, it just has to do with the contract. My contract will never change until somebody decides to change it. And if they decide to change it, then by giving me more defined benefit, more pay, less days off, then that's the new contract, and I either walk away or they fire me, right? So again, there are advantages and disadvantages. If you take the word indefinite away, I think Newton, the thing that we talked about earlier, would apply again. If you took the word indefinite away, then you're not giving them any time certain for anything, and they'll go, let's go indefinite. So
Didn't they do that?
yeah. So
But they don't have to.
but and Margaret brings up a good point about the severance. I hate to get caught up on that, but to some people, they don't care about $56,000 in my case. And some people, they're like, I can wait 2 months to save $56,000 and let the contract end and just walk away. And I get that.
I see that with home sales. Somebody makes a cash offer and thinks, well, the other guy's financing, but it's only going to take another 10 days to get his financing through. I'll wait 10 days to save to make an extra 10 grand.
Right. So I mean, from a city's perspective, I think there's more advantage to saving that severance if you have a time certain contract. But you also run the risk of renegotiating and I'll be frank with you, if I was sitting down with the mayor talking about a contract after my last evaluation, I'd be asking him what we're looking at for money. But I'm not. I got my evaluation. There's no discussion of salary increase, and off to the races we go at the current rate that they hired me for two and a half years
That's
ago.
a thing too, because there's no evaluation of your pay at all, is there? There's no.
Margaret and Alan Green worked a contract with me in August of 2015. That's the contract I'm on, indefinitely. Indefinitely. So there's the advantage. I can walk. If I think I'm worth more, I can walk. you say $56,000 because I'm not going to get severance because I'm the one that walked. If I sit here and they don't like me and they fire me, then they write a check and you're in the same boat. So, don't worry, Jamie put that money in a account like a week after I got here, thinking I'd only last 2, so it's probably earning interest.
All right. So,
I'm ambivalent, by the way. I'm
You've truly spoken as much for it as you have.
I've carved this out.
Yes.
Believe me, if there were
Right.
any advantage, I would have been talking to Mayor Green and Margaret 3 years ago.
Well, then let's ask the manager a question. If you were looking for a city manager job and you had 2 job offers on the table, I don't know, that would be a dream come true for a city manager that was looking for a job.
Sure.
And one of them, and all things were equal except one of them offered you indefinite terms and the other one offered you a term with a renewal.
a 2-year